right, we left the Eggy's house with a name. The name of a man. We had to go and see this man. He's the nephew of this man, this eyewitness. If you remember official sighting number 3, when this brash fellow came swaggering down that hill and right between these fields, right toward this man. Well, we met his nephew. The nephew is a little bit older than I am, and he works here. He works right here, what you're seeing on your screen. And he lives here, also on your screen. He's lived here all his life. He is the manager of the Kenminomori, the prefectural forest park center on the backside of Mount Hiba here. This man is the manager. Now, don't think of a forest ranger. I don't know who tends the forest. That's something I have to find out. This man is the manager of the park center, the lodge, and so on. We introduced ourselves and gave him a copy of my book. My book is turning out to be a kind of passport up here. My book together with Mr. Eggy's name. Well, this man was very interested, very impressed, and he asked us to have breakfast with him on Sunday. He wanted to tell us what he knows and thinks about the Hibagon. So the next day we sat down together and talked Hibagon. Now, I don't think I should tell you everything he said. I trust you guys, but we know that the Eye of Sauron is onto us. We don't need to expose everything. Maybe I should put this information on my uncle's Patreon, or put it in my next book. Well, here's what I can tell you. The man's uncle was affected for life, partly from fear from seeing the Hibagon, and more from the social consequences, ridicule, and being called and labeled a liar. This is just as Mr. Eggy told us. This community was way more divided than I realized. Really sad. The nephew, now the man, was a boy in elementary school at the time. He could have been one of the children in this old footage, being walked to school by the police. Our man has studied the Hibagon all his life, the Hibagon story. He is as fanatical as I am, and as close to the ground as Mr. Eggy. He has an idea where the Hibagon come from. Where they come from. What I would call their core home territory. Not their full range, which, by the way, could be, if they wanted it to be, surprisingly small. If the Hibagon wanted to be content with the same diet as gorillas, well, stems, we got 'em here. Bamboo, we got it. Fruits, if you include beech mast, yeah. Bark, we got lots of that. Bark, remember that. Invertebrates, yeah, lots of them. Vertebrates, too. And a lot more goodies to eat, but remember especially from this, bamboo and bark. Now, the WWF says that the range of a gorilla troop can be as small as 5 square kilometers. That's a lot smaller than the 8 square miles that I got from National Geographic. I quoted that in my book. 5 square kilometers. Hey, draw a rectangle around Mount Hiba, and you get about 24 square kilometers. 5 square kilometers. But we're not talking about range. We're talking about just where they bed down at night. Where the babies and the mommies can hang out all day, safe from prying eyes like mine. Well, the man named... My hair stood up. The man named the very same area that has long been my best guess. I'll tell you how I guessed at it, and you see if you can find it. I was thinking, or trying to think, like an old varmint hunter, and looking for a place with plentiful water, dense forest, few or no trails going through it. That's what I looked for, and I came to the same area as our man. But he got there by a different way of thinking. I'll tell you. Well, he says that the wildlife in that area grows to unusual sizes. Now, this is all according to him now. Your little garter snake grows as big as a boa constrictor there. He says he's seen him. He says he's seen a rabbit there 1 meter long.
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
He says that when he goes camping there, he can feel a powerful, weird energy. And he goes camping there to absorb the energy. So that's where he thinks these weird, powerful Hibagon come out of. I'll say this for the man. He is several years older than me and looks about 10 years younger. So maybe there is something to his life energy or growth energy absorption. Might be confirmation bias, but I was glad that he and I, for different reasons, were looking at the same place. I think next spring that place should be one focus of our research. Now he thinks that Hibagon come and go in long cycles. He gets this idea from the spate of sightings in the 1970s and this ancient scroll supposed to be the protective god of the mountain, and it looks like a Hibagon. So he has this idea of long cycles coming and going. I don't agree. I think they're always there, endemic. Now our friend thinks that they're not around these days, and I think they are. I know they are. We found that out on Saturday afternoon. I asked him about recent sightings. He says there are none. I asked him about recent signs, and he said there are none. But I know there are. I think he doesn't know what to look for. I saw a lot just on Saturday afternoon. And we received or intercepted a very dramatic and very fresh sign made especially, it looks like, for us, for my family. So, our outdoorsman and hunting expert, our game clerk, agrees with me. But that's no skin off our new friend's nose. The Hibagon hide their signs in plain sight. And if you're not even looking or thinking that way, well then why should you see them? Hundreds of tourists pass these signs all the time. Local people too, they go right past them and see nothing because they're not looking. If you don't look, you don't see. I'll show you some signs. That's coming up. I asked our man about those radial lines, and here, this was the first person we've met who knows about them. He said, yep, they've always been there. They're very ancient. He had no idea what they were there for, why they were there. I asked him, how do they manage to stay there over the centuries and millennia? Why don't the trees just swallow them up? He said, the lines are made by... Okay, you just sit yourself down now and hold on to a table or whatever. All right? Okay, he said the lines are made of gigantic stones. I said, really? He said, yes, as crazy as it sounds. And to him, it's inconceivable that humans could have done it. So he had no idea who did it, but he said they're made of gigantic stones. Now, at this point, I should have asked him, and I didn't. I'm kicking myself now. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional journalist or interviewer or researcher. I'm not a professional anything. But I should have asked him if he had seen these gigantic stones with his own eyes. I didn't think to. I talked with my wife about this, and we were both under the impression that he was speaking of what he himself knew and had seen. He spoke very emphatically, without any expressions like they say or I hear that. No, he spoke as if he knew. I told him I had some idea of what those lines were there for. We went over to the big aerial photo map on the wall, and I showed him a little of what our firmament clerk Mike and I have worked out. He was mind blown. He grabbed my hand and shook it like a thirsty man pumping for water. "Who are you? What do you do? Where did you come from?" I told him I'm just a guy with a little OCD and, maybe a little ODD. He said he'd like to go out there with me in future. He'd like to take a day or two off work and take me out there. Now that suits me just fine, so I will try to take him up on that. Maybe we could take one day here and one day where we both think the Hibagon home turf might be. I almost showed you where. Or maybe we think it's here. Where do you think it is? Okay, that's our new friend, the manager of the Prefectural Forest Park Center. Let's hope that he and I can get together in the spring. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Eggy, for this introduction. Mr. Eggy already delivering a big payoff for visiting him. All right, I am Kyle for Hibagon, the Japanese Bigfoot. Friday here, campfire day. We'll have a nice big campfire tonight. Hope you do too. And have a great weekend. Bye-bye.